So my Nintendo Switch 2 video actually ran really well. It's already almost at 2,000 views. It's only been 24 hours.
You have a Nintendo Switch?
I have a Nintendo Switch 2. You didn't watch the video?
You have two of them now?
No, I have the Nintendo Switch 2.
So you have two of them now. That's cool. Can I have one?
You already have one.
Yeah, but I like yours. It's a lot better, probably. Cleaner.
Yeah, I was just saying it's about to get 2,000 views. I think it's only going to go up from there. It's really a hot topic right now.
I mean, it came out years and years ago.
It came
Hey,
out last
handsome, over here.
Thursday. Why do I even
Yeah, you know
talk
what's in
to
here.
you? Hey, are you listening? Hey, are you listening?
Yeah, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine. I'm not distracted.
Okay. I was just saying that
Yeah, you know
I
what's in
have
here.
to try and
Come
think
on
of
now.
something to kind of match
Why are
that
you
or
hesitating?
exceed it.
You know he wants this.
You're not doing what I think you're doing, are you?
Oh, you mean like the A word? No. I'm completely clean now, dude. Don't worry. I'm doing yoga. I'm going to therapy. I got a haircut. Did everything you asked. I'm good.
Okay. Because that intervention was expensive. I can't do that again.
I really appreciate it. The pasta was fantastic, by the way. Did you make that?
Yeah, my own recipe.
Oh, you're good at what you do.
So, I'm trying to think about what to do for my next handheld.
Don't be a coward.
I'm
We're his best
thinking
friend.
of
He's
going
floundering.
back to the
Help him. He
regular
needs
Pocket
this.
Mini. What do you think of that?
I have a different idea.
No. It's only been 2 weeks. How do you have another one already?
Listen, this is different. This Anbernic is light years different from the old ones. All the other ones you reviewed, common stuff.
It's probably going to be exactly the same as every other Anbernic you've taken out of that stupid hat.
Oh, let me guess. You're under the impression that this Anbernic has an H700 processor, a Mali GPU, and Linux 64-bit operating system?
That's exactly what I'm going to say it has. It's probably exactly what it has.
Oh, and let me guess. I bet you're also going to say it plays up to PS1 and 64, great for 4x3 content, and is pocketable.
Yes, that's my whole entire video.
Well, aren't you in for a grand surprise? Because this one throws away the script. It's worlds different.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Feast your eyes on the grand transformation of the Anbernic. Joysticks. Two of them.
You want me to do between a 10 and 20-minute review on Joysticks?
You're damn right I do. And let's be honest with each other. You've, done plenty with less. Yeah, hold on. I'm coming over there. This. Angle it there. Let's put this hand down here. You look good. All right. Don't forget to mention the $1 thing and going to Tech Town and stuff.
At time of recording, you can order the Anbernic RG35XX Pro directly from Anbernic's website for around $44.99. The model shown in this video is a black model sent to me by Anbernic for the purposes of this review. As is always required, all opinions are my own, I'm not being paid, and they are not seeing this video before it is published. It's time to hop on our mount and ride in Spec Town. The Anbernic RG35XX Pro is powered by an H700 quad-core processor. The GPU is a dual-core G31 MP2. These are the exact same chips that are on Anbernic's entire line of XX devices. The device has 1GB of LPDDR4 RAM. Storage is handled through a dual SD card system. One SD card slots for the OS, and one is for expandable storage. A 64GB micro SD card is provided for the operating system and initial storage. The screen is a 3.5-inch IPS screen with a resolution of 640 by 480 and a 4:3 aspect ratio. Giving the device life is a 3200 mAh battery. For connectivity, this handheld has Wi-Fi built in as well as Bluetooth 4.2. The device ships with Anbernic's 64-bit Linux operating system. It's time to unbox the unit, where we'll find the device itself, a USB-C cable, and the user manual. No screen protector this time around. Okay, so let's go ahead and tour the device and see what makes the Anbernic RG35XX Pro a Pro. So we'll start at the top of the device, where we have a 3.5mm headphone jack, HD mini to HDMI out, and your charging port that also functions as an on-the-go port. On the side, you have your volume rocker and your SD card slot for the operating system, and then you have power, reset, and the second SD card slot for expandable storage on the right side of the unit. Now we'll head to the front of the unit, where you have the 3.5-inch IPS display, and you have the typical Anbernic D-pads and the typical Anbernic buttons. And so let's give our typical sound test. The D-pad is very quiet. And the face buttons are a little clickier, but they're not that clicky. We're not talking 35XX SP clicky, we're just talking regular dome style clicky buttons. And both of these have your typical Anbernic build. You have the glossy look for the face buttons, you have a glossy feel to them, and then you have that same mushy rubber membrane connection for the D-pad. Say what you will about Anbernic releasing a bunch of devices that do the same thing. This is a really solid D-pad. Shoulder buttons on the back. Now these are super D-loud, as they typically tend to be on these cheaper devices. So let's go ahead and test that. I would say these are the loudest buttons on the entire device. Luckily, you're not really going to be mashing them. If anything, you're going to be using them for hotkeys or occasionally having to press L and R for a Super Nintendo game or a Game Boy Advance game. So you're not going to be clicking these rapidly like you would be face buttons. You have menu buttons, you have start and select here, and then there's these joysticks. These are barely serviceable. They're recessed, they don't have a lot of travel to them, and you can tell that they're the old school Nintendo Switch style Joy-Con sticks. So they're not wonderful. They'll work for N64, PS1 titles, but they're not great, and I don't know why joysticks need to be included on small budget handhelds like this when you're typically going to be playing D-pad games. There are people who actually need and value these joysticks on these lower end devices. So if you're one of those people, then you will enjoy having them there, or you at least appreciate having them there. This is an interesting design choice. You have a design here for a speaker hole, but that design is actually filled in. This is purely aesthetic. It does not really do much of anything else. Your actual speaker is here on the bottom. So unlike other vertical handheld devices that will typically have a front-facing speaker or a single mono speaker here in the front, this one has it at the bottom, and it's downward facing. It's not front facing. So the speaker is not going to be as great as other verticals out there, but keep in mind this is a $45 handheld, so it's a serviceable speaker, but it's not going to be the greatest speaker in the world. It's going to do its job and not much else. Street Fighter test. See if we can keep Zangief from beating us up. I seem to be pulling off my moves with a decent amount of accuracy. Tornado kicks are fine. Hadoukens are fine. Just getting my butt kicked this morning. Probably passes with about a 90%, I would say. Let's do the Contra test. So if I hold down the D-pad and wiggle it back and forth, you could see that the character doesn't move. But if I want to do intentional diagonals, everything seems to be just fine. I would say, again, passes the Contra test with about, I would actually give this a 95% for Contra test. So 90% Street Fighter test, 95% Contra test. Good D-pad. Now, Anbernic has released a ton of these H700 devices over the course of the last year and a half, and it actually started with the Anbernic RG35XX. This handheld was very similar to the Pro model that I'm holding in my hands now, but it didn't have joysticks. I guess that's where the Pro comes from, because it's really the only change between this handheld and some of Anbernic's other 35XX models out there. In fact, I just released a video 2 weeks ago about a similar handheld called the Anbernic RG34XX SP, which is a variation of another handheld I have called the Anbernic RG35XX SP. I want to say this is Anbernic's 9th handheld with this chipset. I'm actually finding myself struggling to figure out what sets this device apart from the others other than the fact that it has joysticks. Just like the 35XX before it, this device feels cramped to the point where using the joysticks really isn't that comfortable. They're better than the weird joysticks we got in the 34XX SP. They're also on par with the single joystick we got in the Anbernic RG40XX. I actually prefer the Anbernic RG40XX because it's a bigger, more ergonomic vertical. It also has a bigger screen, so if I'm going to reach for a budget under $100 vertical, it's probably going to be this one. Now, the Anbernic RG35XX Pro is also suspiciously familiar looking, because earlier this year, this handheld appeared, the BatleXP G350. Now, it was never said outright, but this handheld also appears to have been made by Anbernic, or at least a company related to Anbernic in some way. In fact, some people in the retro handhelds community have reported getting thank you cards from Anbernic when purchasing the BatleXP G350. One user in the RH Discord named KitFox618 pointed me in the direction of a couple of Reddit posts confirming the inclusion of these stickers. And if you look at these two units side by side, you could see the same quality in the buttons, and it even appears to have the same screen and the same shell. However, the G350 has a Rockchip 3326, and this does not have built-in Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. It does, however, run more emulation station front ends, and you can put ArcOS on it. The G350 is about $10 less than the 35XX Pro on AliExpress, so if you really don't care about Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, want something a little cheaper, and like the emulation station experience, this might be another option for you. Now, I'm not going to talk about the operating system or the power of this device because I've done it ad nauseum in all the other XX reviews I've done. I'll leave them linked in the description so you can check them out because the experience is really the same here. I recommend you stick with the RA game menu so you can have the full options of RetroArch, but if you want a more plug-and-play experience, you can go into the Games Room menu and it'll just be a more simplified experience overall. Once more custom firmware devs get their hands on these units, we'll hopefully see more options such as MuOS, which is the custom firmware I have here on the RG40XXV. Now I prefer this operating system because it offers some nice quality of life improvements such as syncing support, as well as themes and the ability to scrape box art. So if you are interested in the 35XX Pro, keep an eye on the dev scene for when these options become available. So let's talk about 3 things that this device brings to the table. The first being its size and pocketability. It's bigger than something like the Miu Mini and the Trim UI Brick, but it's smaller than the RG40XXV. It will fit in a pocket if nothing else is in the pocket, but the joysticks might snag onto your pocket when taking the device out. It won't be as much of a problem if you're wearing dress pants or shorts, but jeans will give you more of an issue. Then there's the joysticks. The joysticks are there for those who want them, and if you're one of those people, then the joysticks are for you. This device can handle some Dreamcast and N64 emulation, so it's really the only reason I could see for wanting to have the joysticks. However, as I mentioned before, they aren't the most comfortable of experiences, so if you're going to use them, I recommend you don't play precision games with them unless you want your hands to cramp up. Now, the third thing worth mentioning is the price. At a starting price of around $45, you're still getting a solid piece of equipment. Now, I know I'm throwing some shade at this device because I reviewed these H700 devices to death, but I'm also a reviewer. So let's take a look at the device from a different perspective, that of the consumer looking for his or her first retro handheld. Maybe you've been watching these reviews, but you never picked up the device yourself. Maybe you just want to get your feet wet with emulation. Maybe you even want to give this handheld device as a gift. From those very different perspectives, this handheld is actually a pretty good value. It's not going to break the bank, and it has a very decent build quality. It's a good first handheld, it's a gateway handheld, or it's a gift handheld. And from a budget perspective, it's actually pretty capable. If you have one of these XX devices or something more powerful that can already handle emulation up to PS1, N64, and Dreamcast, this device is probably not going to make sense unless you're supplementing a bigger device like a Steam Deck or need something that's just a little bit more pocketable. The price is what makes this a justifiable purchase. Now, there are cheaper H700 Anbernics on the website, including the original 35XX, but most of those don't have joysticks. So if you really want the joysticks, this is the second cheapest vertical out there that has them. The first being the 35XX Pro's cousin, the G350, which doesn't have HDMI out, Wi-Fi, or Bluetooth. Okay, let's wrap things up with my final thoughts, starting with the positives. While I'm not a fan of the inclusion of the joysticks, I have to acknowledge that they are there for people who want them. If you're one of those people, then this is a positive for you. The device is also pocketable despite the potential for the joystick snagging your pockets. And for the price you're paying for this device, you're still getting that good Anbernic build quality that we've all come to expect, making this a great option for a starter handheld, gift handheld, or supplemental handheld to something more powerful. Now, onto the negatives. The first one being the ergonomics. However, this might just be a me problem. I find some vertical devices a little too small to be comfortable, but if you have smaller hands or plan on buying this for a kid, then this might not be as big of a concern. I find the speaker placement of this device somewhat weird, considering there is still the illusion of a front-facing speaker on the device, but it's actually a downward-facing speaker. It was probably a choice that needed to be made to fit the second joystick, but again, maybe that second joystick isn't necessary. The 40XXV only has one joystick, and to me that works out just fine, and it has a forward-facing speaker. My final negative is one that I say every time one of these H700 devices comes across my desk. There are too many of them, and some of them are repeat devices. I don't necessarily think we need a 34XX, 34XX SP, 35XX, 35XX SP, and a 35XX Pro. They all do the same thing with subtle differences between them, and perhaps this time Anbernic moved on to other chipsets. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and please feel free to continue the conversation on the Retro Handhelds Discord, where you can find me hanging out in between videos. And if you want to support the channel like these wonderful people on the screen, you can do so by going to my Patreon page. Links for all these places are in the description. But that will do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and please be sure to like and subscribe if this video was helpful to you in any way. Every smash of that button helps the channel grow and allows me to get more content out to you. Until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.